Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Duel of the Takes. Today, we are ranking James Cameron's filmography as a director, not as a producer. If we did it as a producer, I think we'd be here all day. But we are doing his...
Point Break would win.
Maybe. We are doing his narrative feature films, none of his documentaries. He's a big IMAX guy, so he's had 4 documentaries released in IMAX. We aren't counting those. We are specifically talking about his narrative feature films. The first one being Piranha 2, and the most recent one being Avatar. We are doing this out of sheer anticipation and excitement for the upcoming release of Avatar 2 in Untitled Year.
I was going to be like, what are you talking about? The Blockbuster Facebook said Avatar came out in 2014. Avatar 2.
That's so cursed.
To answer your question about the Book of Boba, he's the executive producer of every episode.
Not James Cameron, Robert Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Well, that's another director we're going to have to rank the filmography of at some point, because that would be a very disjointed list, I think.
I'd have to watch a lot of Machete.
The Machete movies are fun.
I am excited to see Machete Kills again in space whenever that comes out.
Speaking of things I can't wait for, I cannot wait to hear what everyone's top movies are here. And I'm personally really excited for this list. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. James Cameron hasn't made a bad movie, in my opinion. I know we've got only 8 movies to rank here, but I'm excited to see how this shapes out, because my top 4 is all interchangeable. I think he's made 4 masterpieces.
I think he's made 3.
I can agree with 3. Probably not the same 3.
But probably all different. This list is going to start out so chill, and then it's going to become a mess, I know it.
Let's see how chill it starts. I don't think either one of you have seen what you have at number 8.
I've seen all of these.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your number 8, Alden?
Piranha 2.
The Spawning? Why is this James Cameron's worst movie?
I mean, the movie's like, whatever. I don't actually mind it. No, it's bad. I put it at the last place because they had to... Because of how they bred these piranhas, they had to kill them after the movie.
The actual physical piranhas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't release them. Keeping them in captivity is dangerous. They had to kill them.
And this is a bad thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a shame that actual animals had to die in the making of this movie. And now, thanks to CGI, we didn't have to kill a whole planet to make Avatar.
Thanks to CGI, our friend Rob gave that Harrison Ford movie 5 stars.
Oh, the Call of the Wild or whatever with the fucking CGI dog?
Yeah. 5 stars. Unironically.
I felt bad giving Cruella 3 stars.
Yeah, speaking of CGI dogs.
Yeah, no, Piranha 2's fine. I mean, I guess, like, the behind the scenes is definitely problematic and very unfortunate. But, I mean, as a Jaws ripoff, it's better than the first Piranha, in my opinion. I think that the action sequences are better. The characters are awful. You don't relate to, like, the main chick or her ex-husband or the boyfriend. I feel like the stunts are pretty cool. The explosions at the end are cool. You kind of see, like, the groundwork for what James Cameron would go on to do later, as dumb as this movie is and as predictable as it is. It kind of feels very similar to Alien 3 when we were ranking David Fincher movies, where it's like, oh, here's a cash grab, like, studio project. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely conflicting, I will say that. It's definitely not a terrible movie, though. There's definitely worse B movies of this era, for sure.
Okay. I think it's right where it's supposed to be, though.
Yeah, it only makes sense. Number 8, Piranha 2, The Spawning. Alden, you went first. Josh, oh, by the way, we do all have a veto that we can use up until the top 3. So, Josh, what do you have at number 7?
Something safe that won't piss anybody off. I want to say a movie, but I know you feel strongly about it.
You don't have to put Titanic this low, Josh. Look, I know you like Pearl Harbor better.
Pearl Harbor, that's a discussion when we rank Michael Bay movies.
I'm so looking forward to ranking Michael Bay's filmography.
Fuck it, I'm gonna say it. Avatar.
No way. No way. Number 7? Cringe. You want to veto first, Alden, or should I?
Yeah, I'll veto. I don't know if you'll like the veto, but...
That's fine.
I'm thinking True Lies here.
Okay.
I do like this movie. It's one of those It's one of those types. It's a Schwarzenegger movie. It's pretty funny, action-packed, like, I don't know.
I think it's one of the last good Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of ones that came out after this. True Lies was 1994. And it's definitely like mainstream action comedy. So like the action set pieces aren't something like that of like Commando or the Terminator sequels or anything like that in terms of like all over the place. It's very much kind of like an R-rated family movie, if that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like a comparable movie today would be something along the lines of like a Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, not a like a Mission Impossible, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That being said, I love True Lies. I think it is a somewhat flawed movie. The dynamic between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis is like what the movie's all about. Absolutely one of Jamie Lee Curtis's like best roles ever. She's hilarious in the movie. She's also like really hot in the movie, even though she's like pushing 50 at the time. It's an impressive like performance.
Bro, Bill Paxton's in this?
Yeah.
Yo.
And then Tom Arnold's like the fucking neighbor next door guy. He's a fucking cuck. It's great. Like there's some really great moments in this movie. Charlton Heston shows up for a bit.
Sounds a lot better than Avatar.
But it's funny, so...
My only problem with this movie is like the third act, like everything up into there where you have like, oh, he's trying to like keep his like spy life hidden from his wife and daughter. Everything up until when the daughter gets kidnapped, and then it's like this like rush to the end, kind of blow up the helicopter with an RPG. Like it gets a little too over the top toward the end, where I liked the character kind of comedy stuff more in the beginning. I would have this a little bit higher personally. It's in my top 5. But I'd much rather see True Lies here than Avatar. So I'm going to cast my vote for True Lies. Josh, why is Avatar this low for you?
I've just never been a big fan of Avatar. It just feels like to me that like James Cameron like tried to make this like big sci-fi movie that was extremely successful for a while. For a decade, it was the most successful movie of all time. And when it comes to that sense, he definitely succeeded. But I do think the movie's very flawed. I don't think it has any memorable characters. I think the world of Pandora, it's fine. It looks cool, I guess. I never found like that world all that interesting. And the plot, I mean, you could, there's the theming of it. You could say like it's pretty good, but I don't know. I look at that plot and I'm like, I don't know. Return of the Jedi did this like 30 years ago.
That's the thing that's easiest to kind of bash about the movie in hindsight, is that the story itself is so fucking bland. But I mean, at the same point, you bring up Return of the Jedi, so's like Star Wars, so's Harry Potter. I mean, it's following the monomyth to a T, just like those stories. I do agree the characters could be stronger, and I think that's the reason I do have it as low as I have it. But there's so many things in Avatar that, I mean, for a blockbuster, for a showcase, like, spectacle movie, which we'll talk about later, that's what Cameron's known for making. That's James Cameron's whole brand. This, I think, pushed cinema to where we're at now. I think, like, this is like a springboard into the types of movies we get now, whether that be better or worse. I don't know. I think that this movie has actually, I think it's aged quite well in a lot of ways.
I hate to like make this a Star Wars argument, but I feel like the argument of movies now that are like Avatar, I feel like I kind of got to give more credit to that, to the Star Wars prequels, if anything. The CGI environments and everything, like I feel like it started there. And like, I don't know, I look at something like Avengers Endgame and like these big blockbuster movies, and like to me that's kind of where it started, was that era in cinema, and Avatar definitely was one of the pieces of that, but I don't think it's that big of an inspiration that it inspired like this whole next generation of what blockbusters is, because it did become very forgettable, and like it's now become a joke of when this next sequel's coming out, and that James Cameron's going to probably work on these for the rest of his career. I don't know. Time will tell what these Avatar sequels are too. Maybe I'm wrong, and we're looking at the biggest franchise ever in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's like one thing I'd like to point out is its box office did not require 23 previous movies to make sure that it like got that amount.
But we've had so much achievements in IMAX since then. Is a sequel to that Like, how much of the movie itself made the money and not the spectacle of it?
I definitely think it was really smart marketing and really, really good, like, advertising, at least here in the States. But, I mean, most of the money was done, like, internationally. And I think that's kind of where the inspiration comes from. Because the Star Wars prequels didn't do, exceptionally great overseas. Beyond just the CGI, environments, and characters, I agree. The Star Wars prequels kind of made that happen. I think they did it a little too soon, but they were like, whatever, we're just going to commit and do that. And I would agree. But you look at the movies that kind of followed up the Star Wars prequels. You've got the Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Attack of the Killer Ants, which I love. I love that movie. I do. That's the kind of bland CGI environments, monsters, and characters that you'd expect post-Star Wars. This Avatar was another step, taking those assets, but focusing on a story that was vague enough, that was bland enough to relate to audiences all over the world, not just people in the States familiar with a pre-existing franchise. We'll definitely be talking about Terminator a little bit later, but I think the Terminator sequels kind of show how to do both in terms of appealing to a wide audience, like the entire world. Like the Genesis was so popular in China because it's a pre-existing IP, but it also has a very bland, easy to follow story that people immediately get hooked into. And that's what I think Avatar does so right. It also is like bold as hell to make America the villains of the movie. It's the highest grossing movie of all time, or at least was until 2 years ago, and then it surpassed Endgame again. So it's still the highest grossing movie of all time, which is wild. That Chinese re-release right at the New Year was a very smart power play from Cameron in the studio, I will say that.
It seems like, though, True Lies is going here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't want to see either one here, but I think that's the way the cookie crumbles this week on Duel of the Takes. Number 8 is Piranha 2, and number 7 is True Lies.
Don't believe his lies.
Don't believe his true lies. Piranha 2. If this was a tier list, there would definitely be a couple of blank tiers in between Piranha 2 and True Lies. I just want to say that for the record. Piranha 2, The Spawning, is not Kino.
Lay off the weed.
All right, my turn here at number 6. My number 6 is a big ol' scorching hot take. So I guess I'm going to say what I have at 7 instead. I have The Abyss here at number 7. Number 7. I'm going to try to place it at 6.
Man.
I like The Abyss a lot. I think the production design is amazing. And I think this is the first movie James Cameron made after Terminator. Wait, no. Aliens was first. He makes Terminator, makes a grounded sci-fi, like thriller, essentially. It's more of a horror movie than I would say an action movie, although it has those elements as well. And then decides to make a sequel to Ridley Scott's Alien, makes Aliens, which is taking a horror movie and flipping the sequel on its head into turning that into a giant action movie. And Aliens is fun. It's a great action movie. I don't love that movie. He then follows it up with another science fiction kind of, I don't want to call it like a monster movie because it's not, but the advertising for this movie was very, very weird. And you look at reviews of the time, like Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, their review of The Abyss is hilarious because they didn't know it was an alien movie. Like they avoided the main set piece of the movie. You find out in the first 4 minutes of the movie that these characters have had contact with aliens, and it's very odd. It's a very unique sci-fi movie. I just don't think it's one that I could go back to as frequently as other movies on this list, even ones that I don't like as much. I think The Abyss is really really ambitious. I love the production design, and I think this is where James Cameron kind of shifted to being a spectacle over story and over characters kind of filmmaker for me. The effects in this movie are awesome. It feels more like a follow-up to something like Close Encounters of the Third Kind than it does following the trajectory of The Terminator and Aliens for Cameron. I feel like this is a bit more heady and a bit more like cerebral sci-fi, and I really enjoy the movie, but it was my number 7. What's your take, Alden? You sound disappointed it's getting placed this low.
Yeah. I don't know what I can say about it because my veto is gone, but...
I would veto for you, Alden, but you have a Titanic agenda.
I don't have a Titanic agenda. I don't care where it goes. I just am not a fan. And I wouldn't place it here either. Maybe I would. I don't know. The entire idea of this is something I really like. And the fact, like the way it was filmed, everything about it, it's very interesting. Stories, whatever, characters are whatever, but there's not been really anything else like it since this came out.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know, there's something to be said about that, because you can't just release this and then nobody copy it, because this is a great movie. It's not bad by any means. He's did worse with Piranha 2.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of becoming relevant again, because this probably has the most amount of underwater cinematography of all of James Cameron movies until the upcoming Avatar 2, whenever that happens. I think all of that work is very, very impressive, and seeing where Cameron went later with Titanic and with these IMAX documentaries about searching the ocean, you can tell that there's like a lot of passion behind this story, and I like that the main characters are all like they're like oil workers or like oil rig workers. They're like that Mark Wahlberg movie where like the thing blows up.
Deepwater Horizon.
That's a pretty good movie.
They're like distant future versions of that job, and they are sent on like a search and rescue mission, and I just love the twists and turns that the story takes, because it sounds like a kind of schlocky 90-minute action movie or like suspense movie, but it goes on for quite a while. This is a pretty long movie, if I remember correctly. It's like over 2 hours.
It's 139 minutes.
So 2 hours and 20 minutes long. I mean, for the late 80s, that's pretty long for a genre movie like this.
Yes.
And I think it's probably one of Cameron's most underrated movies. I just don't think it's one that I would go back to super frequently. Whereas, like, the top 5, top 6 movies on here, I could turn on at any moment despite their incredibly long run times and have a great afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the opposite for me. Most of Cameron's movies I won't really return to frequently, but The Abyss is one I really like and will watch frequently. I don't know.
I kind of want to veto myself.
That would be a duel that takes first.
Yeah, The Abyss is my number 1.
Fuck. Damn, I feel like the villain this episode.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Maybe I will continue my...
Should I rewind time this? Because I have another hot take if I don't place The Abyss here.
We can have a big fish clause here.
That's fine. What are we big fish clausing for?
What were you gonna say?
Aliens.
Oh, that's fine. I was thinking the same thing.
I don't care.
Sweet. Aliens is what I have at number 6. There's a lot of love for Aliens. I think there's tons of people that would have this like number 1, number 2. I just never got it. Like, I never understood why to take... The trajectory of the Aliens franchise has confused me my entire life. The first Alien movie is one of the best horror movies of the 70s and is an incredibly atmospheric and suspenseful movie. We talked about how great the trailer was last week on the show.
Yeah.
It's seriously like one of those lightning in a bottle movies. I think it's up there with like Jaws in terms of blockbusters that shaped modern cinema. But Aliens is like, hey, we're gonna have the same characters and same universe, but it's this time a dumb action movie. And I think the characters and all of that is really interesting, but the setting, the suspense, it's all gone. It's a paint by numbers action movie after that. And it's not like something like Terminator where you feel like there's a lot at stake. It's just like, oh, all these characters are going to die again like they died in the first movie if they don't win this like fight. You know, there's no stakes, there's no consequences. I guess following Sigourney Weaver's character again, Ripley, is cool, but that's not enough to like ground me into as big of a shark jump as this sequel is.
Even for the people that have Aliens as like their number 1 or whatever, I think we can all agree that the Alien franchise hasn't been the same since this movie. For all the good it does, and also for the franchise moving forward, it brought in a lot of negatives.
Everything that I like about, like, The Abyss is, like, the opposite of Aliens. I think they're probably two of the most different movies on here. Because, like, not that The Abyss is entirely, like, thought-provoking or anything like that, but it's definitely, like I said, a lot headier. It's a lot less of an action movie. Whereas, like, Aliens takes a relatively simple concept. It's a slasher in space, and then it's just like, okay, but now everyone's got guns, and there's a whole fuck ton of aliens, and then these space marines are gonna kill them. It's like, I don't know. It's weird. It would be like if, like, Quentin Tarantino decided to make Scream 2, and it's like a cops versus robbers thing with some guys in ghost face masks. That's like how I can best describe what Aliens is to someone who hasn't seen it.
That sounds pretty good.
Well, have you guys heard the meeting on how James Cameron got Aliens made?
No.
They were having like a studio meeting, and James Cameron was like, I'm coming in with like a pitch. This was right after Piranha 2 had made a lot of money for them. So right after the Terminator, he got he used the funding from Piranha 2 and a lot of his own personal savings to make the Terminator. You know, he was kind of like a younger hotshot kind of type. And he walks in this meeting and he's like, we're going to do a sequel. At the time, sequels were like not something you'd put out in theaters. It was like a straight to home video kind of release thing. He gets the poster, he rolls out the poster for Alien, and he just draws a $sign at the end of Alien. It makes Aliens with a $sign. And is like, this is what we're making. And it like struck immediately. They were like, oh fuck, we're just gonna throw a lot of money at this. He presented it to them like, hey, this is gonna be humans versus aliens instead of just one sole survivor trying to outlive one alien. We've got, this like the queen alien and then all the little xenomorphs running around. Like, this is gonna be a like an action movie. And the studio was like, yeah, sure, dude, do what you want to do. And I think it's really interesting because you look at the difference between the Terminator and Alien and then how they moved the sequels forward. This very much feels like a test run for a different movie on this list, and I think it rocks. I just don't think that this is one that I love as much as his other movies.
Yeah.
Aliens, number 6. I think the first true hot take of the list, which means we're back to you, Alden. What do you have at number 5? Or lower, if it hasn't been placed.
Well, my lower is... I'm not mentioning it. So at my number 5, I have the first Terminator.
Oh, Jesus.
If I veto, I'm putting The Abyss. Josh, do you want to try to save the first Terminator?
If I veto, I'm putting Avatar, so... What do we want to do here? It seems like we're at a standoff. I mean, I could put The Abyss there, but it's also Alden's number 1, and I know you don't have Avatar number 1. I don't think you're that crazy.
No, I'm not. I really tried to be that bold, but I couldn't do it.
I was almost that bold.
I couldn't do it. Man, okay. The first Terminator can't go here at number 5. Yeah, fuck it. The Abyss. I'm vetoing. I get what The Abyss is doing, and I like the movie a lot. Like I said, the production design, the setting, the special effects, the amount of underwater shots, it's really impressive. I think it's kind of one of the first movies that James Cameron did where simply another person couldn't have done this movie. The Terminator is the James Cameron movie. I mean, it launched his whole career. It made Arnold Schwarzenegger a household name. Sure, he had done the documentary Pumping Iron.
Yes.
He turned a subject from an Academy Award-winning documentary into a household name and arguably the biggest action star of all time in a single movie. Like, The Terminator is, I think, one of the most influential blockbusters of the 1980s, if not the most. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. And I love how it simultaneously works as a thriller, as a like cat and mouse kind of, there's a assassin trying to track down a person, but it's also this like heady time travel story. And I mean, well, it was like before Back to the Future and stuff. Like, this kind of brought time travel into the mainstream.
I agree with all that. We praised it so much in the time travel video. It is Duel to Take's fact that it's the greatest time travel movie of all time.
Better than Donnie Darko.
But it was able to have like all these subgenres in it where it is this like it has like this horror element, then it also has this romance element, then it has a bit of action. Like that is what I love about James Cameron, is that he is able to make these big exciting movies and still have all these genres connect and flow so naturally. And I think Terminator was the start of like him making like movies that I consider masterpieces.
I agree, and I think that kind of genre blend that you were saying, Josh, is why James Cameron is as successful of a filmmaker as he is in terms of the financial end. Sure, a lot of his movies might be genre-y, they might be a sci-fi movie, they might be an action movie, they might be both, but at the end of the day, the characters and the subplots, everyone in the family finds something to latch onto, and that's kind of like the marketing like internationally for movies, like Bollywood movies. There's like random dance sequences and like comedy bits in the middle of the movie, and then it like goes back to being like an action movie. And I think that James Cameron is probably the reason a lot of those international movies tend to do the same thing in terms of tone, where you do have sequences where it feels like you're watching a romance movie, or you're watching a comedy in the middle of an action sci-fi thriller. Alden, you want to sing the praises of The Abyss? You want to try to sell me on why it's better than Terminator?
All I have to say about the Terminator is you're right. Both of you. But I don't like it as much as the 4 movies I put above it. So
what don't you like about Terminator?
I'm not really sure. I think it doesn't work for me. I'm not really sure what part. I do like Terminator 2 better than the first one. I knew this list was not going my way, so I did what I wanted.
Did you know that O.J. Simpson was the original pick to play the Terminator?
I did know that, and I find that hilarious.
Yeah, and James Cameron actually turned the studio's choice down for that. He said that no one would believe that O.J. Simpson could be a killer. Sentences aged like a fine wine.
How would public opinion of O.J. have changed if he was in the Terminator?
I think that would be a very interesting episode of Marvel's What If. By the way, I'm pissed that show's animated. I don't know if we talked about that on Sunday, the last episode we recorded. Why is that animated show?
It's easier to cast.
It looks like a Star Wars, I don't know if you remember that like Disney XD show, not Rebels, but Star Wars Resistance. It looks like that same animation. I've never been a huge fan of that type of animation. The Marvel What If was like the only thing out of this Disney Plus lineup that I was actually like curious about.
All my interest is gone. I thought we were going to get A-list actors reprising their roles for, like, one episode where, like... Or what if Tony Stark didn't build the Iron Man suit and just died in the cave, and we'd have a cool little, like, character study of him dying in a cave. Like, I thought we'd get cool shit like that.
Yeah, I noticed some of the what-ifs are just, like, I don't care. Like, some of them just don't make sense. Like, the only one that was cool to me was that maybe Peggy Carter becomes the super soldier instead of, Steve Rogers.
I knew that one was going to happen. I knew that one from the announcement of What If, that she was going to be Captain America.
She can't be Captain America. She's British.
I guess.
There is a Captain Britain.
Gross.
Sweet. All right. The Abyss at number 5. Sorry, Alden. It made the top 5, though.
That's all I was hoping for.
Let's see. So Alden just went. Josh, your turn at number 4.
Oh, man. Do I cause chaos or do I play it safe?
I mean, I think the movie you tried to place at 7 is probably going here, right?
Yeah, I should...
How chaotic can you really be?
I could be chaotic and say Terminator 2 right now.
That's too chaotic. That's too chaotic. That's too chaotic. Don't you dare make me pin those two head to head.
That would be... I feel like that'd be too much chaos because it is number 3 on my list, but Avatar, of course, was lower. So theoretically, I should just put Avatar here.
4 is where Avatar rests on my list. I was trying so hard to get this in the top 3. I rearranged it with... Because, like, the way I see it is it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors game. Like, Terminator and Terminator 2 work so well for me, where it's like, those aren't really, like... Those are solid. Those are locked where they are on my list. I can't really move those too much. But there's elements of Avatar that I like a lot more than Titanic, and then there's elements of Titanic that I like a lot more than Avatar.
Yeah.
I've got one movie that's higher and another one that's lower, but it's like a dice roll. One of them could go in the other spot and they could swap.
It's Billy Zane that won you over, right?
It is Billy Zane that won me over. He's a way, way, way better antagonist than what's his face, Stephen Lang in Avatar. He's too good. He's too good in that movie. He steals the whole thing.
He really does.
We'll talk a little bit more about Titanic now, but Avatar number 4, it only makes sense. It does. I'm happy to see it on the top half of this list and not the bottom half. I think Avatar is one of those movies that is going to go down as a generation-defining movie. Not for us. Definitely not for us. But for the baby boomers. For the people that were so depressed that they couldn't live in the world of Pandora after seeing this movie in theaters, that boomer suicide rates actually went up, which is really sad and actually quite tragic. I hate to hear that is associated with this movie. But I think it's so interesting. The highest grossing movie of all time, still currently, is so culturally irrelevant here in the West. No one talks about Avatar. No one. Could you tell me the main character's name of Avatar right now without looking at anything, Alden?
Yeah.
What's his name?
It's Jake Sully, right?
Yeah, it is.
That sounds fake.
It does sound fake, and I think the most memorable character they killed off.
Well, I stand corrected.
What was tough for me when it came to Avatar was I did not experience it in a theater, and I really wish that I did. I was hoping for like a...
Bro, I saw it in IMAX 3D. It was perfect.
I was hoping for like a 10th anniversary re-release, but I don't think it ever one occurred. Maybe for the 15th anniversary. I just want to see it in IMAX at some point.
I just think James Cameron is a coward in not releasing things in theaters. He literally postponed the production of the second movie because Star Wars was announced. He didn't have a 10th anniversary because Avengers was around.
He did do a special limited release in China around the new year to make a lot more money and push it back over Endgame, which I think is brilliant.
I agree.
I think when Avatar 2 eventually comes out, most theaters are probably going to be doing a double feature IMAX thing. Like,
probably.
Because Avatar is so big.
That's like 7 hours.
Do I want to sit there and watch 7 hours of Avatar? Yeah, I do. We're going to do that. Just to let you guys know.
I'll be there.
I literally can't wait. And I think there's definitely a lot of memes around Avatar 2, and it's like, you know, how good can it really be? This movie's been in production for like over a decade. Like, it's probably going to be a bomb or whatever, but I don't think you can sleep on James Cameron. The fact that he's like made this his sole focus for the past decade, this movie's going to be nuts. It's definitely going to be visually impressive, without a doubt. The amount of underwater cinematography we're going to see, the amount of like CGI, and like the first Avatar movie looks great still. I mean, I think there's definitely aspects of the world that could be better in terms of like maybe the lighting. I think like some of the shadows and stuff look very much like, oh, I feel like I'm playing like a Xbox 360 video game. But in terms of like the design and the composition, there's a reason, despite the lack of cultural relevancy, they still have an entire land at fucking Disney World's Animal Kingdom dedicated to Avatar's Pandora. Like, there's a reason. It's iconic design, and it's one of those things that's going to stick with people longer than the story, longer than the characters. You talk about Avatar, and people are like, are you talking about the Airbender or the Blue People? And it's a shame.
M. Night, we'll be talking about that movie in a little bit.
We're like 3 weeks away from an M. Night Shyamalan ranking. That's going to be nuts.
But yeah, I agree. It's like visually very impressive, and I hope I'm wrong. I truly hope I am wrong.
I think Avatar 2 is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be the Terminator 2 or the Aliens to the original Avatar. I think it's going to change the way we look at this franchise. And then there's 3 more movies that I have no idea what's going to happen in those.
They all have titles though, right?
I don't know.
I know one of them does, at least.
Calling it The Way of the Water is not a good start.
Is that the like actual one? Because I've seen others for it as well.
No, there's an official poster for it.
Awesome.
Well, Vin Diesel's in the movie, so we know it's going to be about family. I remember seeing The Way of the Water on one of the posters, but I don't remember much beyond that. I don't know. Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, they're all on the cast list for all 5 movies. Do you think we're going to actually see these coming out every other year like they're supposed to?
Did they give them like Marvel type contracts where they're like have like 5 movie deals?
Probably.
Definitely not in 2009. I think they might have gotten another 4-movie deal thing in Avatar 2.
That's insane how like confident they are.
The cast lists are all the same.
They made like billions of dollars.
I don't know. It's one movie though.
And
We've had 10 years of technology for IMAX to kind of hit its like, I don't know, what if it's not in VR, what's gonna like impress me visually now?
Hopefully sound design.
IMAX needs to catch up, though. IMAX is falling behind in visual quality and their sound quality compared to Dolby.
I don't know, I'd say sound for Dolby, but...
No, even projectors, like, IMAX is not controlling the standard of their projector quality between theaters either. It's becoming more and more, like, apparent with 4K movies and everything.
I don't know. James Cameron sold me on the Nintendo 3DS. He told me 3D was the future.
Yeah, but did you buy a 3D TV?
No, absolutely not. I'm not an idiot.
3D TV should have been in everyone's home right now.
Should have been.
Well, Michael Bay tried to sell us on the curve and then had stage fright and walked away. That's one of the best videos on the internet. Prove me wrong. All right, so Avatar at number 4. I'm happy to see it there. I'm happy that it made the top half of the list because it deserves to be there. 100%.
I love Avatar.
All right, here's where things are going to get kind of nutty. We have the top 3. Vetoes are null. We've got, in order of release, Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and the Titanic. Josh, you said you have Judgment Day at the lowest spot. You said you have that at number 3?
I do, but it's gonna be really hard to debate this.
I'm gonna set this one out. I have Judgment Day at number 3, and everything else is below it.
I have the first Terminator here at 3.
I feel like every time we do a Duel of the Takes episode regarding Terminator 2, I have to be the hater. I just want to say that I love this movie. I think it is one of the greatest action movies of all time. I do not deny that whatsoever. It all comes down to just what I like in a movie, and the slow-paced horror aspect of the first Terminator I just like better as a film. Terminator 2 could be a lot more fun. I loved the twist in the first act of the movie. I was lucky to not know much about the Terminator franchise when I watched these movies for the first time, so I actually got to experience what the audience experienced way back in 1997. It's a really tough debate for me.
Have I ever told you guys the very weird story behind my viewing order of the Terminator movies?
Yeah, you saw 2 first, right?
Yeah, so I saw 2 at a friend's house, during a sleepover, and his, little brother had to explain to me the plot of the first Terminator movie while I'm watching Terminator 2. And, my mind's just being blown, because I was, the age of the kid in the movie, and it's this insane action movie, the best I had seen up until that point. I think I was probably 10 or 11 watching Terminator 2 for the first time ever, being explained by a 6-year-old the plot of the first Terminator movie. And I was hooked immediately. Watched the whole movie all the way through and was like, okay, well, I've got to watch whatever the heck the first Terminator movie is then. So I think that day, or I guess the day after the sleepover, I go back to my house and I'm like, hey Dad, do we have Terminator on VHS or DVD or anything? He's like, let me check. He goes down into the basement where we have a huge DVD collection. He's like, I guess we don't. He starts the car. He's like, we're gonna go buy Terminator, go to a Walmart or something, buy Terminator on DVD and watch the movie for the first time the day after I saw Terminator 2 for the first time. It was reverse order of the way I should have watched it, but I enjoyed both movies so much. I think where it comes down to for me is when I think Terminator and I think the iconic Arnold Schwarzenegger moments, hasta la vista baby, all of the actual Arnold Schwarzenegger moments are in Terminator 2. In the first movie, he's kind of a silent antagonist for the most part. I mean, he says, where's Sarah Connor and all that, but it's very stilted. It's very robotic. But that's just kind of where I think my preferences lie over the first Terminator movie. I like the aesthetic more. I like the production design. I like how gritty everything feels. As good as the action is in Terminator 2 and as cool as the visual effects are with the T-1000, it's not on the same level of that nightclub scene in the first Terminator where it's just an 80s nightclub playing loud, like, late Italian disco music, and there's just this dude in a trench coat going and, like, trying to kill people. It's like, it feels a lot more like the Terminator movie takes place, like the first Terminator movie takes place in the real world, whereas like the second one is like, I'm watching a movie. And I think like that suspension of disbelief is really what makes the first Terminator stronger, is it's like, this feels like, it's just grittier. And I guess it probably comes down to the budget. By the time Terminator 2 rolled around, James Cameron was arguably the most successful filmmaker in the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, Aliens made so much money, like he projected in drawing a dollar sign at the end of the first Alien poster.
The marketing for this movie was really good. The Guns N' Roses song with it.
And the shotgun coming out of the roses in the mall.
Yeah.
Bro.
It was perfect. They knew what they were doing.
Well, and like at the same time, like Linda Hamilton's character Sarah Connor acts in the movie, in the marketing, they made it look like the Terminator. They made it look like Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be the villain again. And you see this dude in a cop uniform, and you're like, oh, that's probably like the new guy from the future who's going to come and save the day. And it's totally flipped on its head, and it says a lot about James Cameron's pretty woke, bro. This was the early 90s. Cops were not a hot commodity back then. In terms of like, people didn't want to see a main character that was just a goody two-shoes cop, but in the marketing, that's what it looks like. Terminator 2 is like a brilliantly marketed movie, and it's so cool how it flips the first movie on its head beyond Alien. Like, Terminator 2 is like if the xenomorph from the first Alien movie turned out to be the hero of Aliens. Like, it's so cool to turn the movie monster into one of the coolest action heroes ever, fighting a more advanced robot than itself. I think it's so cool. And he's like this private bodyguard for like a kid, and all the stuff with John Connor riding around on his dirt bike and like hacking ATMs. It's like, this is a cool kid. It's like most movies where they focus on the main character being like a child actor or whatever, they usually are kind of shit.
Yeah, I can't really argue that.
I also like how they add to the world building too. They add to like trying to go back to like stop Skynet from being created to begin with.
That's what I love about the first Terminator, is that they leave you wanting more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you're right, it expands on Skynet and everything. The use of practical effects. The CGI was revolutionary at the time, but even the use of the practical effects in the movie, Arnold's hand when you see like his actual robot hand, all that's great.
Just the chase sequence right after the mall where they're driving through like those like giant alley like gutter things, and they're on the motorcycle and they're being chased by a semi truck. Like that's not like how they would do that today. Like they would either rent a private highway space and do it like they did like in the Matrix 2, or it would just all be CGI, but they're like actually driving and wrecking cars and motorcycles in this chase scene, and it's really cool. Like there's a reason why I think Terminator 2 is going to go down as like one of the best action movies indefinitely. I think it's up there with like Die Hard in terms of like, it's going to continue to age well because of the like attention to detail with the practical effects. And for its time, those groundbreaking visual effects really like, that was like next level stuff in the same way that like Avatar was. This was even before Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Was it? I thought this was like 97.
Terminator 2 came out in 1991.
Did it? Oh, yeah, you're right. Why am I thinking...
Titanic was 97.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Got my facts mixed up.
Titanic, the awkward middle child in this debate. Does anyone have that at 3 or lower?
This came out July 3rd. The anniversary was a couple of week ago, or 2 weeks ago. No, Titanic's my number 1.
Based.
I've hinted it for months. I think Titanic is... It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think this movie is awesome. I think it's one of the best romance movies, whatever it's called. As Bill Simmons would say, Titanic's still number 1. When you talk about the highest grossing, I forget what his exact quote was, but he mentioned something about like Titanic, like being number one, and I thought that's...
Wasn't when, like, Avengers Endgame passed Avatar, and he was like, well, Titanic's still number one in my eyes.
Yeah, it was something like that. He's great. I don't know if they have a rewatchables episode of Titanic yet, but they do have one of Terminator 2, and it's really good. Highly recommend listening to that. And, but Titanic, I mean, James Cameron, I mean, we talked about him kickstarting Arnold's career. I know his career was already, like, going high, but, I mean, when you think of Leonardo DiCaprio, this is one of the first movies you think of, no matter who you are. Like, when you... Like, this movie's gonna pop up when you think of Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, the first three movies when I think DiCaprio that come to my head are Titanic, Wolf of Wall Street, and Inception in that order.
Yeah. And I also think of Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can's up there, too.
When it comes to... when we talked about how the effects were in Terminator 2, I think Titanic was just as revolutionary to see... because I think the boat itself cracking, that was all practical, right? That was a model.
Yeah.
I think. It looks great.
And they, like, flooded sound stages and shit for the parts where the boat's sinking. Like, the internal shots there, the interiors are all, like, sound stages that they were just flooding with hundreds of gallons of water.
The set design is gorgeous. I think cinematography-wise, this is James Cameron's best-looking movie. When it just comes on, like, just pure, like, beauty of a movie. He was, I think he was just able to, the movie feels, like, really historically accurate, as, like, I mean, we talked about the set design and everything. And I love the story, I love the characters, I love that it bounces back between present day and then back then. I like how it starts that they're looking for this, like, necklace, and usually, like, in any other movie, I feel like you would call that, like, the worst part of the movie, but I actually found it entertaining and found those characters entertaining also. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it gets too much hate because a lot of people look at it as, like, oh, it's just Leonardo DiCaprio romance movie, big deal. But no, I think it's, like, a huge part of film history that's starting to get overlooked for some reason. It got a little, it was re-released in theaters, I think in 3D, so it got a little resurgence there when it came to people talking about Titanic again, but I think more people need to talk about this movie more when it comes to just the history of film.
All right, so if my math is adding up here, Alden and Josh, you guys both have Terminator 2 Judgment Day at number 3?
I have it at 3, but
But he has Terminator lower.
Oh.
I have Terminator and Titanic lower. It is my highest of these three.
This is wild. Alden, what do you think belongs here at number 3?
Titanic.
I think the first Terminator should go here.
I'm fine with the first Terminator going here.
I'm fine with that decision.
But this is... We just sang the praises of these movies, but this is tough.
Yeah, I was going back and forth in my head between Terminator and Terminator 2, and then kind of Titanic and Terminator 2 when building my list. I was like, if I had to choose which one I'd rather watch between Terminator and Terminator 2, I'm going to pick Terminator 2, 100%. And then when it comes down to which one would I rather rewatch right now between Titanic and Terminator 2, that's a lot, like, that's more of a gray area kind of question. Because it's like, Terminator 2, definitely for the action, but for, like, the characters, for the production design, for the costumes, for, like, Billy Zane, like, Titanic is definitely, like, a more entertaining movie in a lot of ways. It's also, like, 3 hours and 14 minutes long and doesn't feel like it at all.
I forgot Mr. Fantastic plays one of the officers also.
Yeah, he does.
And Kathy Bates is hilarious in this movie.
Kathy Bates is just... She steals every scene.
Kathy Bates is always hilarious.
We talked about Billy Zane earlier. I mean, how did Billy Zane not get a super hero villain role after this movie?
Well, he did play a superhero before this movie.
Right, but I feel like after this...
He played the Phantom.
I feel like after this movie, it's like you look at him like, this guy could have been like Ocean Master.
I mean, he still could.
Yeah, I mean, he's 55.
Oh, he's only 55?
Yeah, I thought he was older.
I figured he'd be older. Holy shit. No, Billy Zane needs to be,
Yo, put him in the Batman sequel. What Batman villain could he play?
You know what? No, just make him Dr. Doom.
Oh, shit.
That'd be tight.
Yo, I like that a lot. I would buy my ticket.
I mean, I don't know where they're going with the casting for Fantastic Four, but if the rumors are true and it's Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, he'd be the right age. He's just a little bit older than them.
Victor Garber's also good in this. Victor Garber, for some reason, is an actor that, like, I feel like I only ever see in, like, period pieces. So when I think of him, I always think of him, like, in, like, not this century.
He's in, like, Argo. I'm trying to think what else. He's in Milk. Yeah, he's in a bunch of period dramas for sure.
Alden, why do you have Titanic so low?
Bro, we've been over this. I don't like Titanic.
We haven't been over this. Please elaborate.
Okay. I really don't want to, but it kind of really comes down to I watched it when I was pretty young, didn't really care for it at all, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth, so I've not really liked it since.
So this is a Sorcerer's Stone situation.
No, but similar.
What's the take on the old Rose scenes? I personally think they kind of ruined the movie, but they're so brief, and it's just at the beginning and end where I kind of forgive it.
I like those scenes.
Okay.
I think those scenes like tie the movie with a nice bow, because I don't know where you go with that end of the movie, and I like Bill Paxton in it too.
Yeah.
Fresh off of, like, Twister.
Yeah, like, I think it filmed the same year. Yeah, that's another interesting thing. You talk about Twister. Like, there was kind of like in the late 90s, there was like a resurgence of, like, the 70s disaster movies. And I think that's kind of why, like, Titanic was as big as it was. One, I mean, you have James Cameron at the height of his powers, fresh off of Terminator 2 and True Lies, making another big movie. I mean, the marketing for this movie must have been insane. If I was, like, alive for it, I probably would remember it.
We talked about music with Terminator 2. I mean, the song, the Celine Dion song, I can't think of a bigger movie tie-in song.
Yeah, it's huge. My Heart Will Go On is probably one of the, like, it's a James Bond song for just a random movie, you know, like,
yeah.
We don't really get that anymore. The only thing I could think of was when they, like, tried to get, like, who was it? It was like Miley Cyrus and when they did that Charlie's Angels remake or, like, reboot.
Oh, yeah.
And they had that Don't Call Me Angel song with Ariana Grande and
Alden and I saw that movie in theaters.
Yeah, we did. We did do that. Why did we do that?
The marketing of that alone. I mean, the score works into the movie tie-in song. I can't think of another example of that.
Lana Del Rey, that's who's also in that song.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Why do I not remember this song?
Don't Call Me Angel? Do I need to pull in the Groovy Bot right now? You don't remember it because it wasn't My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. And that was my whole point in saying that, like, they don't really do, like, giant pop ballads for, like, non-James Bond level movies. You know, it's like...
So what I'm hearing, which may not be what you're saying, is that Shrek is on the same level as Titanic.
What I'm saying is Titanic, Armageddon, there was a resurgence of 70s disaster movies, Twister. Hey, like, what is an interesting scenario? But, like, in terms of premise, Titanic's got to be the strongest. Based off of a real life thing that happened. It's a tragic event, but it was also, like, 80 years ago or something when this movie was made. It kind of has ties to the early parts of film history as well. Like, it was right around the time the movie was starting to be made for the first time. Like, there's a reason why I think this thing kind of, like, got so many nominations and was also, like, kind of, like, cool to hate for so long, because it was, like, just so big you couldn't avoid it. It was, like, the biggest movie of the year. It was in theaters for, like, 6 months.
Yeah.
The only thing that does that now is, like, kids' movies. Like, Frozen 2 will be in theaters for 6 months.
We just don't get movies like this anymore. It's an original story. I wouldn't say DiCaprio was an A-list actor at that point.
Definitely a teen heartthrob, but yeah, I mean, definitely not the Leonardo DiCaprio we know of today.
Everything, it was perfect timing for everybody that was a part of that movie.
Yeah, Titanic was, like, right after Romeo and Juliet and, like, Basketball Diaries, I guess. It was before he did, like, The Beach and Gangs of New York, Catch Me If You Can. This was definitely, like, the thing that catapulted him to, like, mainstream.
No doubt.
On the opposite end of the coin, like, Terminator 2 is kind of everything. I think it's, like, the James Cameron masterpiece. Because, like, Titanic kind of stands out. He doesn't doesn't have any other like period dramas, doesn't have any other like romance movies. Most of his movies are genre movies. They're action, they're sci-fi, they're at the very least cerebral to some capacity, and Titanic is like, it's so different from everything else he's made where I feel like it doesn't truly capture his style. But what's so cool about Titanic is it's almost two different movies in one. You have like the setup in the world and these characters on the ship and like class divide lovers and like that's the first half of the movie. And then shit hits the fan and it turns into like this disaster kind of action movie. It's so interesting. There's nothing else like it, really. I'm trying to think of another movie that has like a giant tonal shift right in the middle and it becomes something entirely different. But none of them do that as well as Titanic.
The movie's paced so well. Like, you remember, like, key scenes and when those, like, when the arcs were, like, changing. Same with Terminator 2 also. It's paced really well.
I remember we had 2 VHS for just Titanic.
Oh, yeah, no. It was a two-parter VHS tape. The only movies in my collection that had 2 tapes were Titanic and Casino, and they're both absolute masterpieces. If I'm getting nitpicky, this is a bit of a hot take. The third act of Terminator 2 kind of drags for me, but I also kind of said the framing device with Old Rose at the beginning and end of Titanic kind of drags for me a little bit too. I also think the sheer stupidity of Jack drowning in the ocean, like the easiest thing to bash about the movie is like, it's kind of cringe. The guy's made it all the way through this. He's survived this far and he has to have this tragic death because he's freezing and falls into the water and dies. Like, dude, there was definitely room on that door for 2 people.
The only bro moment I have in Terminator 2, like a nitpicky bro moment, is when, like, they try to explain Skynet in that one scene, and I'm like, what's going on?
Definitely takes a couple rewatches to catch up to that. It's also pre-internet, so they're trying to explain, like, a cloud technology thing, like, 20 years before that was even invented.
But yeah, that's true in Titanic also. DiCaprio's character, Jack, is also just it's such an easy character to cheer on too, because it's a very, like, I mean, this guy, like, he won tickets to get on Titanic from a poker game, and like he's on this, it's kind of tragic because he's on this ship saying, I'm the king of the world. Like, he was just lucky to be there, and it does end in tragedy in that, but he also found happiness.
Dude, he got to paint her like one of his French girls.
How base was he at the end when he knew it wasn't gonna work out, and he kind of told her, like, to never let go, but also be like, hey, like, live a life, like, live a great life.
Yeah, cuck me from the grave, please.
She ended up, like, having a life in that, and it, like, I don't know, it also I like how the movie ends where you see the entire cast as like this like reunion. However, like you want to theorize of what that ending actually is. I think it's just a solid end to the movie no matter what you think of it.
Alden, between Terminator 2 and Titanic, which one do you like more?
Terminator 2.
And why?
I do not have any fun watching Titanic.
Does it feel too much like history class to you? Is it too historically accurate?
Bro, the first time I watched Abyss was in oceanography.
Well, that would have been a cool thing to say when we were talking about the Abyss, Alden. What the fuck?
I don't think it would have helped, gonna be honest.
My favorite subject was history. Titanic #1.
I like the guys playing like the violins and shit as the ship's sinking.
Yeah. You really remember the supporting cast.
I really don't, but that's fine.
But you also remember the supporting cast of Terminator 2.
Who plays Joe Morton plays Miles Dyson. He's great in that role. I think with Robert Patrick as the T-1000, I think is one of the most slept on movie villains.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and getting to see John and Sarah Connor together is also something that's like really cool, because like the whole first movie's building up to like literally the conception of John Connor. So it's like, you know, can't wait to see who this guy like turns out to be. He's gonna save the world from the cyborgs, like from the fucking Terminators. And it's like just some like punk kid who needs to get a haircut. It's like, oh shit, this is like not that far in the future. And I think the set pieces in Terminator 2 are what make it such a good action movie. Because it's like, we go from, they're at the mall, they're in the arcade, then they're on this giant chase scene, then they're breaking the mom out of the mental institution, then they go on the road and they're running away, and then They go to Miles Dyson's house and try to assassinate him. It's like, it's all over the place. It's incredible.
No, I was about to go complete kind of off topic where I was like, it reminded me of like spoilers for Terminator 3, but how Terminator 3 has one of the most awkward endings I've ever seen for a film.
I've literally only seen Terminator 3 one time, and I just kind of deleted it from my memory.
Yo, rewatch it, because that ending, it's just like, it's like that Simpsons where it's like, well, what the hell? It just like ends like so awkwardly. Like I remember being like, because at the time this was a pre-Genesis or Dark Fate thing, like, and then you had the prequel and Salvation, so this was it for Terminator, and you're just like, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense why to do another. Like, it's a shame that the Terminator franchise continued beyond Judgment Day, because I guess that is kind of one of the weakest things about it, and you can't really avoid it in conversation. People still know what Terminator is because they still churn out really shit Terminator movies, and like everything beyond the first two that James Cameron directed are not worth your time, in my opinion. Salvation's cool.
Linda Hamilton coming back in that Dark Fate trailer, though, it's because of Terminator 2 why we all were hyped for a little bit there.
Yeah, no, she's totally unhinged when they first find her in this movie. And I think that's one of the things I really like is in a lesser movie, you would just have her survive the events of Terminator 1, and she'd be like, oh, well, I guess this is just the world we live in. But she's like crazy. She's trying to like tell the whole world that, you know, the Skynet's a thing and they're going to kill everyone. And she's like haunted by the traumatic past, and that's like a realistic take on what would happen if someone lived the events of the first Terminator movie and some dude traveled back from the future to fuck her and conceive a child that she doesn't get to raise because everyone thinks she's insane. It's good writing. It's strong characterization.
It's great. They took the damsel in distress and made her the badass like muscle of the movie, essentially. Like, I know Arnold's there, but like you're just in awe of how awesome Linda Hamilton is.
Yeah, dude, the scene where she's trying to assassinate Miles Dyson with like the sniper, and she like shoots him in the leg. It's like, holy fuck, and she's like about to cold-heartedly kill him in front of his kids. It's like, this is nuts. I don't really think you could do a movie like that today, in terms of having like, you get these like Black Widow movies where they're like, hey, we need a strong female character, and they look past the character part and they're just like, oh, we need a strong female, so let's have her fall from the sky and jump off of buildings, and like, look, she's not hurt. Isn't that incredible how strong she is? But in terms of like an actual character, she's not only trying to protect her son, she's trying to protect the entire fate of the world because she knows what's gonna happen. That's a strong character, and it's not just because of her physical strength.
She should have been what Brie Larson should have been in Captain Marvel. It's right there. It's right there.
That's another interesting thing, too. Between Ripley and Sarah Connor, James Cameron's got pretty strong female protagonists. Even Rose, to a certain degree, in Titanic.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Avatar, you have, what's her name?
Zoe Saldana.
Oh, her too.
She's essentially the leader, I think, at the end, right?
Natiri is the leader of what's left of the Na'vi.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure in the sequel, she's like, we're gonna see that more also.
Yeah, she's gonna be like the chief of them, like the leader probably, because like her father was the leader and his character gets killed, right?
Yeah, it was during the when they cut down the tree, right?
Yeah, the World Tree Center.
Avatar and WALL-E had like the same ending.
Huh?
Oh, where they plant the new tree?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they came out like almost the same year. Those movies always have the same energy to me.
Fern Gully's up there too.
We have to make a decision where we've delayed this so much. I'm right there with you. I know Titanic's my number one, but I'm also like, do I sway?
Let me guess your top three. You have Terminator 2, Titanic, then Terminator 1.
No, I have Terminator 2, Terminator, then Titanic. Honestly, but I mean, all three of those could be switched around. This was like the toughest like top three we have had in a while on Duel of the Takes.
You've got your whole family sitting around the television.
Okay.
Maybe it's Christmas, probably not. You know, there might be an aunt or an uncle there. You got your mom, your dad, you, Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Your options are watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day or Titanic. What is going to please everyone in the room?
Titanic.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That's where I gotta lean.
I had to watch, I don't think my parents or Grace have ever seen the Terminator. I know Grace hasn't seen it because trying to get her to watch both the Blade Runner movies and the Terminator movies because I'm trying to show her more sci-fi.
I was talking with someone recently, and they were like, yeah, I had to watch Terminator right after I watched Blade Runner. And I was like, those don't really go together.
Oh, yeah, that was one of all
it was
his friends.
Zach.
I think it was Zach. Yeah. I was like, wow, what a double feature.
It's a weird viewing order.
Grace is going to actually watch the X-Men movies for the first time soon.
All of them?
Maybe. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to start with the original 2001.
Yes.
Nate, if you ask me the exact same question that you just asked Josh,
Yes.
it would be the opposite.
Okay.
So I really think it depends on a family.
Okay. Your mom, your dad, your little brother, yourself, maybe an aunt or an uncle. You got to watch either Terminator 2 or Titanic. Which one is being turned on?
Terminator 2, without a doubt. Only one, maybe two, depending on that aunt or uncle, would want to watch Titanic.
The only person in my family that would be like, do we really have to watch this, would be my dad for the first, hour of Titanic. And then he'd be totally invested and would love when shit starts hitting the fan.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, my dad thinks it's overrated. My brother won't watch it at all.
I feel like everyone who thinks it's overrated hasn't watched it in 5 years, though.
We own it. I mean, yes, he hasn't watched it in a while, but we owned it, and I think that's why he thinks it's overrated now.
You also haven't watched it in a while.
Yep, and I don't plan to.
It's a movie that I think gets better for me with every revisit. I wasn't this big of a Titanic fan 5 years ago.
This movie was so stupidly big, it's so hard to fathom. This blew out box office records by a landslide before people were even really looking at that analytic. It was so popular. Have you guys ever been to one of the novelty Titanic museums or a traveling exhibit of the Titanic museums?
No.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
None of that entire industry wouldn't exist if it wasn't for how big this movie was. I went to the COSI, the fucking Columbus Science Museum, Children's Science Museum, 2 years in a row on school field trips to do the Titanic experience. And then again in high school, we went to Branson, Missouri for show choir, and they were like, hey, we can do the Titanic Museum. It was the same exact exhibit. This is an entire industry based off of one successful movie. Granted, it's based off of a real historical event, but I don't think there would be a mainstream interest in the Titanic if it weren't for how popular this fucking movie was.
I've never been to one of those. I know they exist, but I've never been to one.
Here, I'll pull up some pictures in the Legacy General. They're nuts.
Yo, when is George Lucas opening that History of Film museum?
I don't know. I've heard so many things about it.
I know, it sounds so cool.
Almost as cool as this Titanic museum. Look at that. They have a recreation of this room where Billy Zane shoots off the fucking the head of the banister or whatever it's called.
He's such a cuck in this movie.
Dude, what if we got married in the Branson Titanic Museum? For tax purposes.
In Avatar costumes.
Yo, dream wedding.
How much body paint would that be?
Well, if you're wearing a suit, not as much as you think.
I guess so. If you just had a blue morph suit you drew with Sharpie on.
So one of the weirdest things about this Titanic museum, and every time I did it, is they give you a passport of a passenger on the ship. And so as you're going, they want you to kind of role play as if you're that character, hey, this is a real person who died, so be respectful, but also see if you made it to the end. And every time I got the lowest class citizen, and I always die. I have done this museum.
You're Jack.
I have done this experience 4 times and have died all 4 times. I'm 0 for 4 on surviving the Titanic. Do you think Nicholas Roman is just checking out Legacy General of me dropping pictures of the Branson Titanic Museum?
Oh, both him and Eamon are online.
They're on their phones.
Let's ask Nick what his opinion is.
He just texted me right now. He said, hey man, I'm rewatching some I Think You Should Leave right now, and I was wondering what your favorite sketches were from season 2.
He did say that was his favorite show, didn't he?
Don't even respond to that and just put Titanic or Terminator 2.
I'm making a prediction. He will say Titanic.
I don't know with him.
Yeah, me neither, but I'm hypothesizing Titanic.
Yeah, he could also be one of those that thinks it's overrated. He might have not even seen the Terminator movies. Nick sounds like somebody that hasn't seen those movies too.
I don't think he has.
Eamon probably has.
I'm content on Titanic winning.
I'm content on Terminator 2 if I feel mean by taking the spot.
Can I ask for a favor?
Okay.
Can Terminator 2 go so we can have it in the end of the year bracket?
So it could go up against Terminator 1?
Yes.
Let's just do official votes. I vote for Titanic. Alden votes for Terminator 2. Nate, just make the final call, and we'll just go with whatever you say.
I'm going to stick with my guns. I have Terminator 2 higher on my list. I'm going to stick with Terminator 2, making it the number one James Cameron movie.
There it is.
I had to make a judgment call there for Judgment Day.
Titanic.
Today was our Judgment Day. Titanic just got cucked so hard on Alden's whim.
Titanic will come back when we do top 10 movies on a boat.
Ooh. What are some other movies on boats?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Jaws.
All 5 Pirates movies.
Speed 2. You know Speed 2 is going way too high with the three of us.
Captain Phillips.
Oh shit, yeah.
Life of Pi.
Hook.
Does Hunt for Red October count? Do submarines count as boats?
Yes.
It's got to come up to shore eventually.
What's that really boring one that Tom Hanks just made for Apple TV Plus that no one watched?
Oh.
I think there was one with Chris Pine that also came out recently.
Ooh, The Life Aquatic, the Wes Anderson movie. That's going to be an interesting list.
I don't know. The Three Musketeers movie has that flying ship.
I'm thinking of flying ship movies. And there's more than...
I'm thinking of flying things.
They fly now?
They fly now.
Well, let's have everyone read their personal James Cameron filmography ranked lists.
Oh boy, where'd it go?
Alden, you want to go first?
My number 8 is Piranha 2. My number 7 is True Lies. Number 6 is Titanic. Number 5 is The Terminator. Number 4 is Aliens. Number 3 is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. My number 2 is Avatar. And my number 1 is The Abyss.
Holy shit, that might be the most wild possible list you could have made.
Yes.
All right, my list is number 8, Piranha 2, The Spawning. Number 7, The Abyss. Number 6, Aliens. 5, True Lies. 4, Avatar. 3, The Terminator. 2, Titanic. And number 1, Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Avatar, Terminator, Terminator 2, Titanic.
Okay.
All right, and the group list is number 8, Piranha 2, The Spawning. Number 7, True Lies. 6, Aliens. 5, The Abyss. 4, Avatar. 3, The Terminator. 2, Titanic. And number 1, Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Wait, Terminator was my number 2, actually. I think I mixed that up. I don't know why I did that.
How dare you?
There's only 4 movies, and I couldn't do it right.
Man, imagine only watching half the movies on this list, Josh. Tisk, tisk.
Listen, Alden did all of his homework. I was the Alden today, and it was interesting.
I didn't watch a single movie for this episode. I've just seen these.
Yeah, because James Cameron is the greatest filmmaker of all time.
That's a statement.
Remember that M. Night Shyamalan where he's on the cover of like Entertainment Weekly and they called him the next Spielberg?
Yeah, that was wild. We're definitely bringing that up in a couple weeks when we rank M. Night Shyamalan movies. I may or may not be...
Oh, that's got to be in the thumbnail.
I may or may not be going to see the premiere of Old. It's the red carpet. I have to dress up for it on Monday if I go.
Oh, so you gotta shill then.
Yeah, you should go.
I don't have to do that. Well, my options are doing that or going to Scranton. So
You could ask M. Night Shyamalan, hey, which one do you like better, Titanic or Terminator 2?
personally asking Shyamalan what his favorite James Cameron movie is.
That would be a very interesting podcast guest.
We've mentioned this multiple times.
No, who we've mentioned is Kevin Smith. We will not rank Kevin Smith movies until Kevin Smith is on this show.
What if we get Jay instead?
This ended up being a spicy list when it came to takes.
I agree. We all have very different opinions for only being 8 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of our like short lists are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Not today.
We didn't talk about it on the podcast yet, but we all saw Black Widow this past week.
Oh yeah, we did.
It's a movie.
It was a surprise. A surprise where it didn't suck. I thought it was good. It's a very it's a spy type movie towards the end where it kind of feels more like a James Bond movie, which I'm glad. I'm glad like this MCU movie has a little bit of its own theming, because I feel like some of these MCU movies are very bland. Like it's no like Ant-Man and the Wasp or anything. Yeah, I was surprised.
That hurts.
I don't know why this movie didn't come out in 2016, but here we are.
I didn't feel as strongly about it. I think it was okay. It just felt very disjointed for me. Like, there were some pretty good action scenes for being it's in the same vein as like a Winter Soldier in terms of like, hey, this is a spy movie, so we're gonna like be a little over the top with it. And I thought it was fine to have those over the top action sequences, but then it was like matched up with really pretty well acted dramatic scenes, especially the ones with Florence Pugh. Like, she's acting circles around just about everyone else in this movie.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I really liked Rachel Weisz as well. She was great.
I wish she had more screen time.
Yeah, me too. I kind of wish that she showed up earlier in the movie and was kind of like orchestrating getting the two back together. I guess I thought Fat Martin Scorsese as the villain was pretty cool. I think that the strongest scene in the movie was definitely where he's just beating the shit out of her and she's like letting him do that so that way she can try to break her nose to have the pheromones break to try to eventually beat him up. Like, it seemed right in line with something out of like a 60s James Bond movie, and I thought that was cool. But I just felt like the movie was kind of a tonal mess. Like, it felt like it needed to have the comedic moments like a normal Marvel movie. And I feel like if there was ever one to have a departure, this would be the one to, like, just take it straight. Like, play it straight. Like, the fact that they play off the fact that they were, like, their genitals were mutilated for the sake of this organization, and it's played off for laughs, is really kind of fucked up. Especially in Age of Ultron, a movie we've shilled recently, at least the trailer for. That was like supposed to be a dramatic scene where she feels like she's less of a woman because she can't have the Hulk's babies. It's like, this doesn't line up with the character that has already been established in the cinematic universe. She wouldn't be making light of something that she was just crying about 2 years earlier in the timeline.
The cool thing, what I like, because you brought up trailers, the trailer for Black Widow, like, I thought it was going to be your stereotypical, well, she goes back home with her family, we're going to get some, like, I don't know, cringe family moments and that, but I like that it's not actually her family and this was all like a fake family. And when she realized that her mom gave her away, and then it's gonna like, oh, we're gonna have that stereotypical where she's gonna find her mom at the end. No, her mom is no more, which I thought was actually interesting, that they actually like didn't give this character like a lot of things to I guess like fall back on as like a not like a redemption, but give this character some happiness. The only like true like happiness she got back was her relationship with her fake sister in Florence Pugh's character. Yeah, I thought the trailers kind of did well where they subverted my expectations in a good way, because I thought that was going to go a lot more like MCU stereotypical.
I don't know what I was really like wanting from this movie. I guess it was better than I expected, but the bar was really, really low for me. I mean, I just thought this was going to be like dead in the water in terms of like enjoyment level, and I thought that there were some pretty cool scenes and set pieces. I was kind of pissed to see, like, the Taskmaster thing. I remember, like...
That was disappointing.
People were disappointed with the way that they did the Taskmaster, but I didn't find that any more or less disappointing than the way they did, like, the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, for example. I thought that it was fine. Like, I thought, like, it made sense with the story. I just think it was dumb that they pulled back the fact that earlier in that movie it was revealed that Black Widow pulled the trigger on executing a 9-year-old girl. I thought that was, like, metal. Like, I was like, this is tonally, like, a good way to take this character, because she has to deal with, like, the trauma of her past. And then they're like, in the third act, psych, it was his daughter. Haha, she didn't die, really. She's still just a robot cyborg guy now.
No one's ever really gone.
What's the point of making that an emotional scene, of her having to take the life of a child? There's no consequences in any of this.
With that scene specifically, I think it kind of helps considering she is dead. Like, her character is no more. This is likely the last time we see her unless there's a flashback. The redemption of that, because that's easily her biggest regret, is helpful to her character, and at the same time it shows like how shitty the antagonist is. For one, like turning his daughter into a cyborg, and two, then mind controlling her. So I don't know. That didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I just don't think a movie that has like essentially is an extended metaphor for sex trafficking should have jokes about genital mutilation. Like, that shouldn't be played for laughs. I don't know. I just feel like this was a tonal mess, more so than a normal Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking into it a little too much. Maybe I've become a woke monster of a human being, but...
No, I see where you're coming from, and it was a little jarring.
This needed a stronger writer, a stronger director, just a stronger vision, because the person who directed this movie clearly knows how to direct actors. I think the best acting in the entire MCU is in the scene with David Arbor and Florence Pugh in the bedroom right before they sing American Pie and get attacked by the sleeper agents.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just didn't seem like in terms of like a tone or a style there was anything like new there. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I am kind of with you on that. It doesn't feel brand new, but it is kind of refreshing to have something like this out of the MCU.
I mean, I feel like it scratches the same itch as Winter Soldier for me. If I want to see like a superhero movie, but it's more of a spy movie, I think I'd probably go back to that before I ever go back to this.
I think I agree with that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Winter Soldier's better.
I still would put this probably in my lower top 10, though.
When I say it's one of the best MCU movies, this is coming from a guy who only thinks there's like 2 great MCU movies, so take that into consideration also.
Well, there are only 2 great MCU movies.
Well, I added this into my list, and I think I have it higher in my list than it is in yours, Josh, so that's really funny. I feel like there's a lot more like actively bad ones, and this like is somewhere in the middle for me. This is at number 13. If we're talking about our MCU list, this is right above the first Avengers and right under Spider-Man: Homecoming for me.
I'd have to look at my list to decide, but I'm pretty confident with it being in the lower top 10.
Yeah, it's probably around there for me. I don't think it would make the top 10 or anything, but I guess we'll find out sooner rather than later.
Well, that top 10 is going to be very different.
Let's see. Do we want to talk about the future of the MCU? Did anyone watch Loki? Josh, you said you binged that last night, right?
No, I was going to.
Oh, well, I watched it, and I'm not going to say anything about it.
No, talk about it.
It's better than the other 2 shows, though. I will say that.
I mean, it's the highest rated superhero television show of all time as of right now.
Is that saying much, though, for superhero shows?
The Boys is Kino.
Yeah.
It's had 2 absolute 9 out of 10 seasons, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't think Daredevil was bad either.
But for every show like The Boys, we have like a CW show.
Oh, we've got 5 CW shows at least for every version of The Boys. But like Loki surpassing... Dude, I don't...
It's not better than The Boys.
It's not better than Invincible either.
I haven't seen it. I might eventually, but I don't know. If it was a movie rather than 6-7 episodes, I don't know how long the season was. It would probably also make the top 10.
Wow.
I feel the same way with Loki as I do with Black Widow as characters, where I think when they were first introduced, they were really interesting and I wanted to see more of them. But as they kept bringing them back and as they kept showing up for like the team-up movies, it's like there's not really anything left to explore. And I get like with Loki, they weren't really exploring the character more. They were more or less exploring the timeline, which I think was probably the way to go. But for like Black Widow, it's like, well, this is sandwiched between her events in Civil War and her coming back for Infinity War. So we have a very small window. She can't have a major character change anywhere within here. You know, it kind of stinks because I feel like if we just got something that was more tonally in line with like Atomic Blonde or even that Jennifer Lawrence Red Sparrow movie that wasn't that great, like I feel like that would have been a cooler standout, but that would involve more of a character exchange. And if you go back and watch Infinity War now, do you really like get that Scarlett Johansson just like toppled the entire Black Widow initiative in the Red Room that she was talking about like 4 movies before? No, you don't like, there's no weight to anything that happened in this movie.
I guess that's one thing that can be said about Loki is the stakes from his previous actions and what came after this point in his timeline kind of don't matter for the show. They can do what they want to set up future properties, pretty much. This is definitely trying to set up the multiverse for the next Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and whatever else comes next.
It's gonna be a wild year, dude. We still got Shang-Chi. We've got the Eternals, and we still got Spider-Man 3 around the corner. Do you guys think the Tom Holland Zendaya thing is a setup? Do you think that's a real relationship, or do you think the executives are kind of toying with that and pulling some strings?
We will find out by the release of the movie. If it lasts until release, I think it's probably like a thing. But if it ends up a short-lived whatever that just press picked up, then it's probably
It's a plant.
Taylor Swift, Tom Hiddleston situation.
Oh yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it?
Didn't really work for them, but hey, they tried.
Did you see Hugh Jackman hinted at a Wolverine return?
Oh, he's been doing that for like 4 years now.
Did he say in what movie?
No, I think with all this multiverse talks, I think it's becoming it makes a lot more sense for him to show up.
Deadpool is properly confirmed.
Deadpool just had a video with Korg this week. He's in the MCU.
I don't know, like, when X-Men are going to show up, actually, with the exception of Ralph Boner.
Bruh. That doesn't count.
Maybe I'll care a lot again when X-Men show up. I think they're finally getting out of that lull, albeit not with every property they're releasing right now.
I think they're still in that low. We're getting, I don't know. I'm still not excited for the Eternals or...
No, of course not. No. I guess what I'm trying to say is there are exceptions to what they've been doing for the last 5 years.
Well, sure, they come out with so much content, you're bound to like one of it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I like 2 out of the last 6, 7 movies and shows. Maybe more than that.
The issue is, too, it's like, some of them are just like completely like fine, but it's like, and it's also hard to hate on. Like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a perfectly fine series. I don't
hate it. I just wish it finished stronger than it did.
I thought it did. I thought it just kind of told its story like fine, and then it did exactly what it wanted it to do. It wasn't anything outstanding, but it didn't need to be. It's just kind of there, and I'm fine with it.
I feel like of the 3 shows, that's the one that feels the most in line with where the MCU's at right now. I felt like WandaVision very much felt like its own thing, which is kind of weird because like they kind of need to do something with those characters, or at least with Wanda. And that just kind of like, it doesn't really feel connected to any of the MCU, at least not yet. And I think that's why people were like, oh, this is going to lead into the multiverse and get us to where it didn't do any of that.
No.
It didn't do anything until an after credits scene on the last episode.
Speaking of after Crean, did you guys catch the post-credit scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Black Widow? Because I only watched it. I couldn't hear it because we were pulling out of the drive-in. What happened? Is Veep in the MCU?
So major spoilers for both this and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She showed up in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, and at the end, the Captain America, Wyatt Russell, becomes the U.S. agent, which is kind of like the evil version of Captain America. And then her character is essentially kind of like an evil version of Nick Fury, where she's putting together kind of this team to go against the Avengers. And now in the end of this film, she's I guess Florence Pugh's already on the team because she was already talking about that she's on vacation and stuff. So she's already part of whatever she's putting together. And now it's hinting towards the Hawkeye show because she showed her a picture of Hawkeye and was like, this is the guy that killed your sister. There he is. It's kind of a hint towards the Hawkeye show.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you think Florence Pugh's the villain of the Hawkeye show then? Is that where that's heading?
I don't think she'll be the villain, but she will be an antagonist for the first few episodes without a doubt.
Yeah, she'll realize what happened and then they'll probably team up.
She might even kill him. That would be great if they did that, but I don't think they will.
There's no way. She'll just become part of the she'll just be the next Black Widow, and she'll join them on whatever Avengers movie comes next.
The whole movie was kind of a justification for how Black Widow could have survived the fall, like the sacrifice fall off that cliff, because she jumps from a fucking exploding spaceship. She survives like 3 car accidents that involve an explosion. Like, I kind of find it hard to believe that Black Widow's actually dead now after watching Black Widow. Like, I know she's dead.
No, she doesn't have to be because of the multiverse, not because she survived the fall. Literally nothing matters. They can do whatever they want for a story, and people will write it off because of multiverse stuff.
When I first saw Endgame in theaters, I thought the scene where Clint and Natasha are trying to like fight each other to see who gets to sacrifice himself was tonally very cheesy the first time I saw Endgame, but now standing out, that's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Hawkeye and Black Widow friendship is actually one of the more underrated arcs we had in those phases. It's actually done really well.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wish they got to have a movie together. Like, they kept talking about that, Budapest, I think?
Budapest.
That's, like, been a running joke throughout all the movies, and then we actually go there in the film, and it's like, man, it would have been cool if that was, like, the Black Widow prequel, where we just got that, because that sounds really cool.
But that's what I always say, is if they had the movie at the time that fans were specifically requesting it, that's what we would have gotten.
Yeah, probably.
That is the exact situation.
Yeah, I feel like they missed the boat not giving Black Widow the first female standalone Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right after maybe the first Avengers, or even right before, with like right after Iron Man 2 would have been a perfect time to make this movie. Literally a decade ago.
That's when a lot of people thought one was going to happen, and here we are in 2021 with Black Widow after she's dead.
Yeah, I mean, after Iron Man 2, that's all everybody talked about was Black Widow.
Definitely the highlight of that movie. Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, you're right. Is he coming back in these movies ever?
I heard something about him coming back, yeah.
Because I guess his character is in that, the thing from Civil War, right?
Probably. I don't know if they need a that high security prison.
I thought it would have been cool if he showed up in, like, a Falcon and Winter Soldier. If he could team up with, like, Zemo one day, that'd be really entertaining.
Yeah, he could have just been, like, an arms dealer that they got down in, like, the third episode or something. Like, oh, we gotta shut down an arms dealer, and it's Justin Hammer or whatever the hell his name was. That would have been cool. Some way to incorporate him and feel like he's still in there. Like William Hurt, they pulled that dude out of nowhere for Civil War, and then he shows up again in Black Widow. I'm like, is this dude actually a part of the cinematic universe, or is it just like, oh, we need a military guy, time for him to show up again?
Yeah, that's true.
I guess for like the time period of those two movies, it works.
Yo, speaking of characters coming back, at the end of the Shang-Chi trailer, why is Abomination fighting Wong?
Yeah, why is Wong there, first of all? Why is he fighting Abomination?
I might have bought my ticket to Shang-Chi.
I already said that's the one I'm looking forward to seeing the most. I think it's going to be the best, and by that I mean probably the worst MCU movie yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. Is it still being played by Tim Roth?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really? No way.
Because Tim Roth is coming back for She-Hulk.
Tim Roth is back in the MCU and is fighting Wong in Shang-Chi. That is so Kino.
And he's going to be in She-Hulk for some reason, too.
Well, Abomination is a Hulk villain, primarily, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess this will be a hint towards She-Hulk. The cast for She-Hulk looks pretty good. As I've said on this like podcast before, Hulk is my favorite Marvel superhero, so She-Hulk's also very cool. That is actually one of the shows I'll watch.
Yeah, I have no reason not to watch it. I haven't watched any of the MCU shows yet, except the first episode of Loki, the third episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the first 2 episodes of Wanda Vision.
Well, those are the best episodes of Wanda Vision, and I'm going to piss people off by saying that.
I think you were right. I think I pulled out at just the right time. If only I had the right call with AMC stock as I did with with the MCU TV shows, I would be in a very different situation right now.
And we also got Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac whenever that comes out.
Is that a show?
Yeah, it's in Disney Plus series.
He's getting Disney Plussed?
He got Disney Plussed.
If John Boyega stuck with his Disney contract and got Disney Plussed, what MCU character would he be playing?
Ooh.
Hear me out. This is a scorching hot take. I think he'd be the Thing.
Oh.
I could see that. That'd be interesting. He wouldn't get Disney Plus then, unless there's like a Thing spin-off show.
When is the Fantastic Four third reboot happening?
We have no idea.
All we know is that it's...
The Phase 4 logo looked like the Fantastic Four logo, and that's literally all we know.
That is the logo. That's the Fantastic Four logo.
But we didn't get a trailer, a date, confirmation if it's going to be a show and then a movie.
I believe Feige did say Fantastic Four is the last Phase 4 movie, which is weird because we're going to have a phase that doesn't have a team-up movie.
Unless they team up with the Fantastic Four.
That'd be wild.
Spider-Man teams up with them all the time. They could do like the Future Foundation or whatever it's called.
Well, it's the same director as the Spider-Man movie, so I think it's very possible Spider-Man's going to lead into a Fantastic Four thing. Maybe they haven't revealed anything yet because the Spider-Man movie this December is going to have a hint towards it or something.
Maybe a post-credit scene or something. I can't see them shoehorning that much into this movie. Have we not learned?
I don't know. We got Abomination and Shang-Chi. Anything could happen at this point.
One more piece of news before we cut this episode. We've got... did you guys see the trailer for the Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl?
I did.
No.
It's Smash Brothers, but with Nickelodeon characters.
I thought it was fake.
Oh my god.
They have rollback net play, which means it's going to have better internet connection than Smash Brothers.
Oh.
And it's on Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. And the developers confirmed there is wave dashing. This might be the new competitive Smash Brothers game.
Yo, you get Reptar and the Turtles.
And they said there's tons more characters left to be announced.
Oh my god.
We haven't seen anything from Fairly Odd Parents or Jimmy Neutron yet.
You get Nigel Thornberry?
I'm hoping that Nigel Thornberry is just a Wario clone.
I think he has to be.
Yeah, All-Star Brawl looks incredible.
Wow.
We better get Ultra Lord.
The Crimson Chin.
Oh, true.
Zim is there. We've got Gur.
Powdered Toast Man.
I like that SpongeBob's combat is his karate gloves.
I'd assume it'd be the same with Sandy. But maybe she just has a gun.
Danny Phantom's gonna be overpowered as shit. I'm calling it now.
Reptar fighting Helga's funny.
Danny Phantom's just gonna have the same moveset as Noob in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Danny Phantom is gonna be like Mewtwo mixed with Noob Saibot. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Who's the studio for this?
It's published by Maximum Games, but I don't know who the developer is. Why is that hard to find?
Let me try PC Gamer and see if they're based again or not.
Ludosity is the name. Ludosity is the name of the developers.
Ludosity, probably. I see it, yeah.
But yeah, no, this game could end Smash Brothers once and for all. I was talking with Trevor, and he was saying this would be no contest if it was Cartoon Network characters instead of Nickelodeon characters. But I said SpongeBob alone is more marketable than any standalone show on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, SpongeBob at this point's got like Mickey Mouse energy when it comes to like recognition.
Like the SpongeBob characters are going to be like the Mario characters in this roster, where there's going to be like 20 SpongeBob characters. Patrick looks cracked, not going to lie.
Is our next recording the draft battle?
It is, next week. All right, well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode of Duel of the Takes. James Cameron, forever.